Let's talk about Gaza ceasefire. Netanyahu agrees to ceasefire in Gaza based on Trump's 20-point plan. Hello, you're watching the Globali with me, Mosmi. On 29 September, the White House unveiled a 20-point ceasefire and reconstruction framework for Gaza, presented by President Donald Trump with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Netanyahu endorsed the plan but stressed that Israel would continue military pressure if Hamas refuses to comply. Hamas has not yet formally accepted the proposal, and Israeli strikes on Gaza continued even after the announcement. The plan calls for an immediate ceasefire conditioned on phased hostage releases within 72 hours, disarmament of Hamas, interim technocratic governance under international oversight, and a large-scale reconstruction program. The framework's success depends on Hamas' response, regional buy-in, credible verification, and humanitarian logistics, of course. Now let's know what was announced. A 20-point plan that includes an immediate ceasefire, staged hostage release within 72 hours, disarmament of Hamas, Israeli repositioning interim governance through a technocratic administration, and a major reconstruction program. This was announced. The US pledged full political and military backing for Israel if Hamas refuses. Netanyahu endorsed the plan but warned Israel would finish the job if Hamas rejects it. International Board of Peace to oversee governance with technocrats running Gaza temporarily, excluding Hamas from political power. Now let's know the immediate status. Hamas has not formally accepted the plan. Leaders say they are studying the proposal, but no binding statement has been made. Israeli military operations continued after the announcement, with strikes reported across Gaza, highlighting the fragility of the proposed ceasefire. An international reaction is mixed. Some Arab states cautiously welcomed the idea, while others questioned its legitimacy and feasibility. Now, what are the political and controversial features? Hostage conditionality. A 72-hour deadline for hostage release places immediate pressure on Hamas but reduces its bargaining leverage. Verification of compliance is a serious challenge. Disarmament and political removal. Hamas must disarm or relinquish power. Amnesty or exile may be offered to fighters. This creates legal, political, and legitimacy debates. And what about the international governance? A technocratic interim government could stabilize Gaza quickly but risks being seen as externally imposed occupation, undermining Palestinian self-determination. Now, regional role, if we see, Egypt, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE are crucial to ensure legitimacy. Without their backing, the plan will face resistance. Iran and its allies may actively oppose it. And the implementation and challenges? Hamas consent is the decisive factor. Without it, the plan remains aspirational. Israeli domestic politics may complicate implementation as Netanyahu's right-wing allies oppose concessions to Hamas. Now, what about verification and monitoring of disarmament and hostage releases? They're technically difficult and politically sensitive. Gaza needs urgent aid, water, food, medical support, housing, which requires secure corridors, international funding, and cooperation on the ground. The humanitarian aid. And the regional and global implications, Arab states, support from Egypt, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE would legitimize the plan and secure reconstruction funds. Iran likely to resist the plan and could use its proxies to sabotage implementation. And what about US politics? Trump's involvement strengthens his global profile and domestic political narrative. A success would be a major foreign policy achievement. Failure could damage US credibility. Now, what is the humanitarian dimension? Gaza's population faces acute shortages of food, water, medicine, and shelter. A ceasefire is essential for large-scale aid delivery. Without accountability for civilian casualties and mechanisms to protect civilians, the ceasefire risks being only a short pause before the next conflict. Now, what are the possible scenarios? The best case would be Hamas accepts, hostages are released, Israel pulls back, interim governance begins, and reconstruction starts under international oversight. But if not, the partial agreement would be some hostages are released, violence temporarily reduced, but weak enforcement causes fragile peace and repeated flare ups. And the worst case, Hamas rejects the plan. Israel escalates operations with US backing, worsening the humanitarian crisis and destabilizing the region. We need to know the 5 critical facts. The 20-point plan was unveiled on 29 September 2025. Hostages released within 72 hours is central to the plan. Will this be successful? Netanyahu endorsed the plan but warned of further escalation if Hamas rejects it. Hamas has not formally accepted and is still reviewing the proposal. Israeli strikes on Gaza continued after the announcement, meaning no immediate ceasefire is in effect. And the policy recommendations and deploy neutral international monitors immediately to verify hostage releases and ceasefire compliance. Link humanitarian aid to verified steps such as safe passage and disarmament milestones. Secure regional guarantees from Egypt, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE for border control and reconstruction logistics. Create accountability mechanisms for civilian protection and investigation of war crimes. They need to set a roadmap for Palestinian political agency, ensuring that technocratic governance leads to meaningful local representation. Now, can externally imposed technocratic governance truly gain legitimacy among the Palestinians? If Hamas is sidelined, who will represent Gaza politically and how will the vacuum be filled? Are the 72-hour hostage deadlines realistic given logistical challenges? Will Trump's Board of Peace be seen as neutral or as US dominated? If the plan fails, how will the conflict escalate and what role will regional powers play? However, lately strikes on Gaza continued after the Washington announcement, showing the ceasefire is not yet in effect. Hamas has been given only a few days to respond. The coming 72 hours will be decisive. Now, what to watch? Hamas' official response, hostage movements, regional statements, Egypt, Qatar, Saudi, UAE, the humanitarian access, and any intensification of Israeli strikes. Trump's 20-point Gaza plan is bold but precarious. Its success hinges on Hamas' acceptance, credible monitoring, humanitarian corridors, and strong regional participation. Without these, the plan risks becoming a short-lived pause or a pretext for further escalation. The coming days will determine whether this framework becomes a turning point toward de-escalation or another missed chance for peace. For more updates and insights, keep watching the Globali.